Hi everyone, this is Faye from Feisworld Media, and I'm here with Oz du Soleil. So good to have you here. Let me give everyone a brief introduction. We're going to hop right into today's juicy conversation.
All right.
So, so first of all, Oz is the host of a YouTube channel called Excel on Fire, where Oz brings a fun, dramatic, humorous approach to teaching Excel. Oz is the author of several books and has presented Excel topics and masterclasses at conferences in Amsterdam, Sofia, Bulgaria, São Paulo, Brazil, Toronto, Canada, and cities around the United States and Australia. When Oz is in elbows deep in the guts of a spreadsheet, he does storytelling around Portland, Oregon, where he resides, and he has told stories on stage for Risk, Pants on Fire, Seven Deadly Sins, Pickathon, The Moth, and the other storytelling shows. And today, I'm just so excited to be talking about a variety of topics with Oz, including but not limited to Excel on Fire, Excel MVP, what it's like to be a YouTuber and struggles with the algorithms.
Mhm.
Um, Creating courses on LinkedIn, and specifically, Oz has developed really this body of knowledge and has been making a living on not just Excels, but this is like a very important element of it. But last but not least, storytelling. The interesting is I've spoken with a lot of technologists and people who are really good with tech in general, and that just doesn't seem to jive very well with storytelling, which I think it's such an important element of running a business. And influence of Seth Godin, someone we both love and adore. And so please, if you're watching this wherever you are on social media or YouTube, please leave us any questions you have. And here we go. Oz,
All
welcome.
right. Thank you. Thank you. That's a lot. And yeah, a lot of good topics that I'm looking forward to talking with you about.
Mm. Let's
Yeah.
talk about MVP. Let's talk about Excel MVP. Like what, that
Okay.
was my first question, Oz. Like I didn't know what it was. So help
Right.
us understand.
Right. Well, um I think the MVP program with Microsoft is nearly 30 years old or somewhere like that.
Mhm.
But what it is most valuable professional. Okay. Um every Microsoft product has a contingent of MVPs.
Mhm.
Um, like Azure, Power BI, Word, PowerPoint, um, and we're chosen for skill, but also our community contributions is what it's called. Like
Mhm.
having these conversations, my YouTube channel, blogging, helping people on forums, speaking at meetup groups. Um, so, and that winds up being the big deal, because a lot of people have the skill, but not everybody is out sharing the knowledge and helping evangelize for the program. But then it's the evangelizing for the program is not like being a yes person, right?
Mhm.
Because we criticize the hell out of these things sometimes, and we um so, okay, so a person has to be nominated to be an MVP, and then there's this black box. We don't know who or how they
Mhm.
decide um, to accept somebody as an MVP. And there's about 75 Excel MVPs in the world.
Mhm.
And what that means for me is having direct access to the engineers that make the product and have an influence on its future.
Mhm.
Okay. I've had people ask me to nominate them, and then I want to know, why do you want to be an MVP? Well, because it can help my career.
Mhm.
Well, first of all, that's really self-serving, and the second thing is a lot of people don't know what the hell an MVP is,
Mhm.
right? So I can't. It's not helped my career directly, but to be able to talk with the engineers and see a lot of NDA kind of stuff, what they're planning to come out in the next month or in the next 5 years, and then us MVPs get to say, That's ridiculous. Why are you doing that? Or, whoa, you got to hurry up and get that out because I can see immediate use for that.
Mm.
And bringing up something in these sessions with the engineers. So, you know what? If there was this little small thing, it would be so beautiful because of this situation I had.
Mhm.
Here's situation here. And they listen.
Mm.
So I can point to things where I've had direct influence in what's in Excel today. Um, the engineers know me. I was surprised to find out that they watch my videos.
On
Um,
YouTube? Where do they watch
yeah,
them?
on YouTube. Yep.
Wow.
And then they contact me and they ask me questions. They ask me, do I have other kind of use cases for what I showed in a
Mm.
video? And then being on little teams where one of the engineers is thinking about doing something in Excel and they need more input.
Mm.
And they'll tell us over and over again, we're here in Redmond making the thing. You all are out there in the streets seeing what's going on, and we need you, you know?
You make Excel sound so fun.
Yeah.
Even the way you talk about it, I think people hop on and not sure exactly what we're talking about. It's like, are they talking about an ice cream chain or like the next best seafood restaurant? We're not so sure. Like people on the street, what are they talking about? And
Yeah.
how long have you had this passion for Excel? I know you've written numerous books, collaborations, and
Right.
you've been at this for a little while. Like, how did you even stumble upon this? What was that moment where you
Well,
realized, oh, this is something? And for people who are watching, you have developed a full time career on your own, living anywhere you want, work
yeah,
anywhere you want.
yeah.
That is not trivial. That is work of a lifetime for
And
a lot of us.
I'm very appreciative of that.
Mhm.
I do not take that for granted, and I do realize the rarity of this situation, this life that I get to live. But the passion, there's different phases to that. So first of all, um, I was working in a call center and hating life. I hated the job, and I hated when I would get up and go to the bathroom, and I come back and my supervisor has put on my chair this report saying that my calls were too long. I was taking too much time between calls, and it was constant. And then I'm sitting here thinking how hard I'm working,
Mhm.
but my supervisor, the director of the department, they aren't going to want to hear, but I'm working.
Mhm.
They've got data. I
Mm.
need some data. So then I figured, and I know that I was being an asshole when I did this. I said, okay, I'm gonna write down every doggone thing I do for a week, and
Mhm.
then we'll all see where my time is going. And then I was writing it in a notebook. Then I
Yeah.
started to see patterns. And then I had this thing called Excel with all these cells in it that I could sort. And so I started taking stuff off of the notebook, putting it in Excel, and then I noticed patterns. Somebody called to ask about a class.
Mm.
Somebody called up, knew what they wanted, placed an order. Somebody else called, and they've got a whole lot of questions about books. Keep me on the phone for about 10 minutes, asking me all these questions, and then they don't buy anything. The whole, I'll think about it and maybe I'll call back later type of stuff.
Mhm.
Then I even wrote it down if somebody wound up in the wrong place. I did securities and insurance. Somebody starts asking me for about real estate. Say you're in the wrong queue, so I got to forward them to that queue. I wrote that down. And the surprise was how much tech support calls I was taking, and those calls were long.
Mm.
Um, And once I had all of that stuff in there, and then I had them in some crude categories, and then I made some ugly pie charts and some counts of these things.
Mhm.
I said, okay, what do I do now? I sent it to the president of the company.
Mm.
I skipped over my supervisor, the director, vice president, went straight to the president of the company. And it's one of those things where, okay, am I willing to die in this ditch? The answer to this one was yes. If I get walked down to HR for this, then fine. But I was fed up. But
Mm,
the response, people didn't know how much tech support was coming into the center.
mm,
They saw every call as here, take my money.
mm,
And no, no, maybe not even a quarter of the calls were that. So many calls were about um I took this course with Al and I need to retake the course. Where's Al teaching again in Southern California? Oh, he's not teaching for a long time. Well, what about Arizona? Oh, so those were the types of calls that were coming in.
mm.
And when I showed that to the president of the company, he took that seriously. And there were some changes made. Eventually, tech support calls were outsourced to a whole different call center that was not us. Um, they realigned how the call center worked. Um, There's so many changes happened, and so that showed me the power of data.
Wow.
Where
What year
yes,
was this, by the way?
this we're going back to like 2004, 5, somewhere around there.
Wow, you were working at a call center in
Yeah,
2004 or 5.
yeah,
Wow. I
yeah.
remember you wrote a book in 99. I think
Oh
some
Lord.
it was like data management. I actually saw that. So I have thought that this conversation, what you just experienced will have to come before then. But you were already pretty well experienced with Excel, sounds like.
Well, right when I did that in 2004,
Mm,
2005, that was the first real thing I did with Excel.
mm,
Prior to, I mean, like solid, any type of building a graph or something. Prior to that, I had done data entry into Excel.
mhm,
Like, yeah, I did a temp job at a yo-yo company, and it was just typing stuff into Excel.
mhm,
um, and then eventually just doing some basic stuff, some if statements and sums and stuff.
mhm,
But then when I got mad about my performance, um, that's when I started to see, okay, I can put things into categories,
mhm,
and then I can do a count if. And I didn't know about pivot tables at that point. I didn't
mm,
know about the no-no of doing pie charts that have, like 9 slices in them.
mhm.
Okay, I know that now, but it was the response that really got me, was like, people listen to data. People aren't gonna
Yeah,
listen. I
interesting.
say, doggone it, why you keep bothering me with these papers? I'm sick of them.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
you know,
It's
yeah.
isn't that interesting? I think, you reminded me when I was still at the very beginning of my career. I'm gonna give a shout out to, Dwight Blass, and, he instead of for us to argue about, like, how we spend our time and, and I remember, like, salary negotiation, all of these things, he always used data. We're both, like, 23 at the time, and he will pull data, and he would immediately shut up anyone. And they look at it as like, oh, I guess you are working overtime. Oh, I guess the other departments or oh, I remember it was promotions of people in California somehow are getting promoted much more frequently. I never realized the power
Mhm,
of even sometimes simple data that
mhm,
could how much more easily it could actually convince people. So with that said, I think what I really find your story to be super compelling to me is I love for my podcast, for Feisworld, to be discovering not just people constantly being talked about in newspaper or hot news and or newsjacking in general. I'm just fascinated after speaking with you Then that night, after it was late for us to join Paul's event, I think it's a personal assistant conference. I forgot the name exactly, but
Right. Yes. Yes. Yes.
right, it was, yeah, exactly, the PA conference, and it
Hmm.
was 11:30 my time. It was really like 8:30 where you were,
Yeah.
and we were I remember you said, "Oh, I teach courses on LinkedIn." And, after we talked, I went to LinkedIn. I was blown away by the sheer volume of courses that you have created, and gosh, how many people registered and are currently attending the courses, and then the positive reviews. So which means people there are tens of thousands of people in your courses, and they give you these, like, five-star reviews, and, I will conclude with this. I watch one of the, promo reel, like, before you commit to a course, and then you can actually interact with it. I laughed. I just thought to myself, like, how interesting could you make an Excel course be? I mean,
Mm,
just like, you gotta be God or something.
mm,
And
mm.
so, I watch, and then in your introduction, you're very sincere. And at one point, you said, when they data coming at you all nasty, and I cracked up so bad
Uh,
because
uh,
every time you're so sincere. And the moment you said that, that's the relationship I've always had with Excel, is that the data is always coming at us really
mm,
nasty. What are we doing
mhm.
now? It's like a car accident. It's like, what? It is not a good feeling, jokes aside, that a lot of people interact with, whether, frankly, it doesn't matter, it's Excel or lately Zoom or Google Drive, that people just have these things they can't overcome. It is a negative feeling, like a feel in your gut about
Right.
Excel, but then you're there to help them out, and then
Yes.
it changes their
Yes.
primary modality, like, just, like, incredible. Alright,
And,
I'm done.
yeah, yeah, and that's thank you for that. Um, because that's important to me to empower people, getting people alive and see that there is possibility and give people permission to do things a long, crude way.
Mhm,
Don't look at somebody's really concise function or formula with an obscure function and say, "Oh, why am I writing not doing that stuff?"
mhm,
No, it's a slow evolution. Um, take time, but develop a persona where you can beat this thing. You can whoop it. You
mhm.
know, you say, "Okay, crap data. Okay, you full of all these duplicates. I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna find you, and you're gonna be sorry."
Oh, you
Okay.
damn duplicates.
That's
Exactly.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel. And that's how the passion,
Yeah.
because you asked me about where I started and then where the passion come from. The passion, um, and when I started solving problems in Excel, long standing problems, or my reports in Excel were more accurate than the ones coming out of the company database with all the IT teams and the
Mm,
SQL code and stuff. Well,
mm,
my stuff was more accurate. And this lady, she was an administrator for a company that was a major client of ours.
mhm.
She was always mad because stuff was wrong.
Mhm,
Because we would have to look at who completed these certifications in the previous month and send out this fancy certificate and this gold pen.
mhm.
And she would always call up, "You resent me these two, and you didn't send me this one. And I asked you for a replacement, and you didn't send me that replacement. What are you people doing?" It took me about a month or a couple months to get her on my side when I took over that role. And what I noticed was that there was problems with the source data.
Mhm,
The report was not set up to deal with people taking these four courses out of order. Okay. The report couldn't catch people if they started the four courses with one employer and then finished with another.
mhm,
The report would get tripped up if, say, a person has a maximum of 3 years to take these courses. So they started 5 years ago and stopped, and started all over again 2 years ago and completed.
Mm, mhm,
The report didn't see that. The report saw you
mhm,
went over 3 years. So I said, stop sending me that monthly report. I just am going to take every doggone thing out of the database in a data dump, and I'm going to peel down what I need and then look at it certain ways so that I can see, oh, yes, this person did all 4 courses. They actually did 6.
mhm,
And I can draw a ring, a 2-year ring around these last 4. Okay, boom. So when I was able to start doing that, and this lady, one day she called me a friend. So
mhm.
like, wow, we were all rotten, you know, we were all rotten, a few months ago.
Y
Um, but that started to give me a passion. It's like I can figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm not going to go kiss the DBA's ring in order for him to get me a report tomorrow. No, no. Because then the thing is, he gets me a report that's wrong and I can't unkiss his ring. See, no, the damage
Yeah.
is done.
Ye
So, so yeah, it's this passion of fighting
mm,
for these people.
mhm,
That's the thing. It's not the Excel tricks. It's when she calls me a friend, when people stop calling with all kind of hassles.
mhm,
Um, there was a lady that I worked with. She was an insurance agent in Maryland. We screwed something up because the data was a mess. Maybe she had 6 profiles in the system, and the reports couldn't handle that. But I was able to handle that and straighten things out for her. That's what it was.
mhm.
Um, that's where my passion comes from.
It's
When she could stop having to call me daily because I straightened the problem out. That's what
mhm.
this is about.
Yeah. So I want to this is really interesting about the origin stories, and you remind me also when I created these Zoom courses, it wasn't about, "Oh, I'm number 1 in Zoom," where this is my one and only calling and passion. It's stepped in on YouTube, for instance, and solved something very specific for Zoom for dance instructors and fitness instructors of coordinating movements versus sound and video, and I did it for my friends and, my friends who are Zumba instructors, and then the video took off and gave me all these ideas. So I think it's just a really important reminder for people to realize that the it doesn't have to be difficult necessarily, even though sometimes it can be to figure out what the solution is, but it's
Mhm.
about providing value to other people and,
Yeah.
in turn, it's a reward that keeps on giving to
Mhm.
yourself as a creator. So I would love we have so many places and areas to go to. So next I want to kind of explore. Now you have developed something, you realize you have this gift, you figure something else out. How did you land on LinkedIn? I mean, creating courses on LinkedIn is not trivial. We have an audience, we have people who will be watching this now or later want to know, how do I even get in? Like, could you maybe talk about that process, whatever you're willing?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, there is so much there. And so let me see if I can summarize it as best I can. All right.
Mhm.
Um, so there was a layoff in '08. The company laid off all 300 of us in Chicago and they moved to La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Mhm.
Okay. I had a really nice severance package, so I didn't have to hurry up and find a job. So I could try this and try that and explore this. And I thought about getting a project management certification, risk
Mm,
management I thought about all kinds of things. But people start calling and wanting me to do little trainings for Excel. They got Excel questions, little Excel projects.
mhm,
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the challenge of, okay, I've never done that in Excel, but I can kind of see how to put some pieces together. Okay, so now Excel is becoming its own thing and not inside of like customer service or
Mhm.
when I was a commissions analyst. Now it's Excel.
Mhm.
Um, and then there was this thing called Dabble that came up in Chicago where they said, okay, there are people who know things and people who want to know things. How about we let the public post courses and uh, people can sign up for them and they'll be inexpensive and they're for people who want to dabble. Like
Mhm.
if you want to do wine making, but you don't want to pay for some $600 course, maybe you want to take a $20 like here's what you're getting into if you go ahead and pay the $600 course for somebody else. And then maybe you decide you don't want to do it.
Mhm.
Or that's good enough for you. It was fun. It was whatever. So I did a few Excel courses. And
For Dabble, I just
yeah,
found the site discovering local courses. Wow,
yep,
very
yep,
cool.
yep. So all kinds of things people post on there.
Mhm.
And people liked my Excel courses. And now I'm starting to borrow from when I played bass. I liked being on stage. I was an okay bassist, not a good bassist, but I brought stage presence because I would dance and I would move and I would, come down off the stage. Um,
Mhm.
the bass brought out a performer in me. And then when I started doing these courses, people liked the energy that I brought.
Mhm.
And then there were times where I would try for a laugh and didn't get it,
Mhm.
or people are laughing in the wrong situations. And then I found out that Second City in Chicago, they're not just for Tina Fey and Chris Farley and stuff. The public can take courses at Second City. So I took 4 levels of improv and a storytelling workshop and 2 stand-up classes at Second City. And that helped me to kind of refine what I do.
Mhm.
Um, and one thing they said at Second City as soon as you show up is don't come here and try to be funny.
Mhm.
Force funny. You can't. Funny will come. And sometimes you got to find out where you are. Are you the one that's being funny in a scene? Are
Mhm.
you supporting? Are you the one who's got to steer a scene off of a cliche direction? So you
Mhm.
got to look at all of that stuff and not try to force some laughs. So
Mhm.
that was a huge help. And then when I started doing the YouTube channel, my early videos are really dry, just straightforward. I'm gonna show you some product. Okay, I
Mhm.
showed you some product. Okay, that was not fun for me.
Mhm.
And then I talk with the people who've said they're sick of boring Excel stuff. So then I start thinking, what can I do to make this sustainable for me as a creator? Okay, because I don't believe this stuff about it's not about you.
Mm,
Well,
mhm.
if I'm the one who's got to do it, it's partially about me. Then and there's a difference between that and like self-indulgence.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's and that's what I've learned from the storytelling that I've continued to do on stage is when I get lost in planning my story for a show,
Mhm.
I kind of pull back and say, why do I want to be in front of an audience telling this story? What is the audience getting out of this?
Mhm.
Okay. So there's that dance, there's that consideration. Um, and when my channel was of like 750 subscribers, small. Um, and when YouTube changed their monetization, they
Mhm.
had to have, I think, at least 1,000 subscribers.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was under that. And that's when I got contacted by LinkedIn. And the person who contacted me was like, wow, I really love your channel. I love the passion. I love the humor. I love that you're
Mhm.
teaching Excel and not in a way that we already have it on the platform. And the
What year was this, Oz? Like, do you
this
remember
was like
728?
2016.
Yeah, yeah, I remember roughly that's when YouTube 2016 to 17 is when they added the 1,000
Yeah.
subscriber count. 2016. So, quick recap, you had only a 750 subscribers on YouTube, but the channel gave you such visibility so that someone at LinkedIn Learning contacted you and said, "Why don't you create courses?" Do you remember if that person offered 1, 2 courses or like, "Let's wait and see," and like that just, "Why don't you create something? Let's see if it even sticks or if it even works."
It was more that. It was more let's think of a course that'll be a short one, because
Mhm,
there are maybe 6 hour courses on the platform, but we didn't want to come out of the box with 6 hours. So what is like a hour and a half, maybe
yeah,
2 hour course?
yeah,
But then also what's not already there.
right,
Okay, because that's one thing I've liked about the relationship with LinkedIn is yeah, you'll have multiple Excel courses, but they're not going to be the same thing,
mhm, mhm,
like beginner pivot tables, and then there's 5 people with their beginner pivot tables. No, no.
mm.
So I've liked that. Uh,
So what did
but
you
let me,
do? What was the course you did, if
oh,
you remember?
it was Power Query.
Okay,
Yep.
how did you decide on that?
Because I was very passionate about that because most of what I've done with data has been data cleansing
Mhm,
or merging data or
mhm,
appending data. And so many of my videos up to that point were on that topic. And so there hadn't been a course that's kind of an immersion
mhm.
to Power Query. And so that's what I put together where I go through all 6 joins, how to append, split
Wow,
columns. Yeah, a lot of things. Um, but yeah, that was the first course, and that came out I think August 2017.
wow, August 2017, and since then, I have found, I mean, I don't have it in front of me, you have created a series of courses covering a variety of topics. So, I wanna kind of go back and to say and also that when you look at LinkedIn and YouTube for people who are watching, how do you what have you learned about these 2 platforms? They're obviously very, very different in terms
Hmm.
of the audience, maybe the algorithms and how they're being promoted, and I would love to get your take on what you've learned back then versus today and how to choose our focus, right? Like the productivity and focus for a creator is always tough because we have lives and
Right,
time is
right,
limited.
right. So, so a lot of things. So let me talk about YouTube because there's a few things. I had to get focused on what am I doing here?
Mhm,
Am I trying to make a living off of ad revenue? Am I trying to leverage it into people buying my courses? What am I doing? And this is important for people who have asked me, okay, how do I start a channel? Well, what do you want it for?
mhm,
Because and this is one frustration I have. A lot of the advice around YouTube is for people who want to grow a huge audience and make money off of ad revenue,
mhm,
or get brand deals and stuff. But there are people who use YouTube like, here is my sizzle reel.
right.
Okay, I'm a speaker. I want to get gigs as a speaker. Go to my YouTube channel and you can see 5 videos of what I do as a speaker.
Mhm,
That's what they want to do on YouTube.
mhm.
And then I had to get clear that I want to provide a body of knowledge.
On YouTube. Mhm,
Yes. I'm not trying to get rich on YouTube.
mhm,
It only brings me about $120 a month. Um, but what is allowed
mhm.
has been huge.
Mm.
That is my primary community contribution for remaining an MVP.
Mhm.
Um, where I it was so touching when I was in Bulgaria, where there was a guy who found out that morning that I was going to be teaching in Sofia.
Mhm.
He signed up and he came and he quoted something from one of my older videos.
Mm.
It was like, it's like, man, like a true fan, somebody who
Yeah.
knows me.
Mm.
Um, and so that is the kind of stuff that doesn't show up in the stats.
Right.
You look at my
Yeah.
number of subscribers, is relatively low. Um,
31,000 is not that low.
right at this point, right? But
Right.
when I was contacted by LinkedIn, when I had 750 subscribers, it
Mhm.
was the power of what else is going on, what
Mm.
doesn't show up in the analytics.
Mhm.
Um,
At that
and
too.
yeah, and one thing that I know you want to talk about is the analytics. And I don't look at my
Right.
YouTube stats. Cause like, well, I mean, I look at them,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
with my last video, okay, I post it and I go look. I look to see which comments I haven't responded to, but I see the analytics, and
Mhm.
there's an analytics that says something like, this video is performing eighth out of the last 10
10.
videos after 15 hours. After 10 hours,
Yeah.
last 10 videos over
Yeah.
15 hours. And now it
Yeah.
becomes this like pull, this emotional pull of
Yeah.
why isn't it number one or two? And I have to say, shut up.
Right,
I
right.
am not in that race right
Mhm.
now. Um, Excel put out 14 new functions. It's more important for me to share the knowledge about those 14 new functions than to be chasing these analytics.
Correct.
Um, and yes, my channel grows slowly. I don't do keyword searches. I
Mhm.
do things where somebody emails me something and I think, this I think is something that other people could learn from. Let
Mhm.
me make a video about it.
Right, right. Very organic.
Right. And I've been okay with that. And there was one year where I came into the year saying I'm gonna end the year with 100,000 subscribers and that silver play button.
Yeah,
And I hired somebody to help me do that because I watched him do it in a very short time.
yeah.
And he's got me doing keyword searches and all kind of stuff that had me feeling slimy. And you know, and I don't and I want to be very
Yeah,
clear that I'm
yeah.
not knocking people who
Mhm,
approach it that way.
mhm,
I don't like marketing. I don't like marketers. I don't like being marketed to.
mhm, mhm,
I like genuine interaction and um yes, I would take it if I could do things my way and
mhm,
have 100,000 subscribers. Sure.
mhm,
But I'm not chasing the subscribers. I am like, okay, there's 14 new functions in Excel. Let me get those out and get them out in my style, the style that my followers have
mhm.
come to expect.
You know, when you said, like, it's true, marketing, marketers, and the funny thing is, I think my parents or most people in my family, my friends would have said the exact same thing. But over the years, when I look back to my career in consulting and advertising, now marketing has been part of my title, or at least people kind of see me as someone who's in digital marketing. And so I thought to myself, with that versus both of us are somewhat heavily influenced by Seth Godin's work, and Seth is one of the most genius marketers out there. So I think there is truly that good versus bad marketing. A bad
Yeah.
marketing, right? I just want to clarify that we all get tons of emails, messages through LinkedIn. People are like, "Would you like to up your subscriber count? Would you like to sell your $20,000 coaching package? I'm like, if you just look, I'm not even a coach. So
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
tons of emails coming in, promises, everything, pictures of them with some famous person. Oh, it's just so
Hmm.
irritating.
Yeah.
So I want to take this moment and say, know that Seth Godin has influenced part of your work. I want you to share what that is and how you have learned maybe the good marketing or something that works for you and your brand.
Well, I like Seth Godin. Was he, right. He's not like this straight marketer that's gonna tell you about A/B testing and stuff.
Mhm,
Um, he talks about like human things, about, burnout and fairness and integrity and stuff. I like that.
mhm,
But really, his influence on me was when I decided to leave Chicago and move to Portland. And I kept
mhm,
talking about I'm moving to Portland, and I was even throwing out old clothes and stuff. And then one of his daily things that he emails, and I still get those.
mhm,
Um, it said something like, "A dream is not real until there's a date,"
mm, mm,
and that told me, okay, if I'm moving to Portland for real,
mm,
I need a date. And I was talking with my friend Charlie and figured, okay, my last course at Second City ends on this date. And then 2 weeks after that date is when I'm getting in my car and I'm moving to Portland. And things just like started falling into place in the most
mm,
beautiful way. Clients started showing up. Clients that had been putting stuff off. They were finally ready to act, and all kinds of things, great things. I had to get my car together, to make a drive from Chicago to Portland.
How did that happen, Oz? Say a bit more about how the clients started to show up, how your business started to bloom in a way as a result of making that decision to move or something else you did.
I don't know what happened,
Yeah.
but I know that what happened with me was, um rather than this nebulous kind of,
Mhm.
yeah, I'll sell you this chair for $10 because I don't need it. I'm moving to Portland.
Mhm.
There's clothes that I'm taking to the garbage.
Mhm.
But then when I said August 15th,
Mhm.
now everything was focused on August 15th.
Oh, interesting.
Now
Yeah.
I could tell people,
Mhm.
okay, if you want to do this project, I don't know where I'm going to be after August 15th.
Mhm. Mm.
Because I'm going to make a road trip out of it. I'm going to see friends in Utah and Idaho and Colorado along the way.
Mhm.
I don't know when I'm going to show up in Portland, so it could be, mid to late September.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was being truthful. I was not trying to do some kind of, creating false urgency.
Mhm.
No, this was real. Also, what do I need to do today
Mhm.
so that I don't have to stick around after August 15th?
Interesting. What needs to be done
Yeah.
in Chicago? Yeah.
What do I need to do? Start getting my car together. Take it to the mechanic. Give me a list of all the stuff I need to be
Mhm.
out on the road like this. And there was one time I only had the money to get two tires changed. And then I'm sitting in the lobby of the mechanic when a client calls and says, okay, they're ready to do something, and they PayPal me the deposit, and then I go tell the mechanic, okay, all four.
Mhm.
And I don't know about like mystical stuff, if it's
Mhm.
true or not, but there
Mhm.
was something that was way more intentional about me
Yeah.
where, without seeing that from Seth and without a true date, I might have booked something that would have had me in Chicago into September and then into October. Um, Things got very focused and deliberate when I set that date.
When was
And
this?
and
Yeah,
it was
go ahead.
immovable, huh?
Yeah, say, please finish what you were thinking. I was gonna say when that was.
Yeah, well, made the decision to move. That was November 2013,
Mm,
and then I think it was February 2014 when I set the date,
mhm,
and I set it in concrete. That was not a date that was movable.
right.
Um, and even the day that I got up, I had been told, okay, Oz, you want to leave like around 10 a.m.
Mhm,
so that the traffic isn't all bad. Okay, get up that morning, and one thing after another happens. The place, I had a whole bunch of stuff that needed to be shredded. The place that I knew to take stuff to, it wasn't open on Wednesdays or whatever it was. I didn't know that. I get up there, the place is
crazy.
dark. You know, so all kinds of stuff is going wrong. And then around 1 o'clock, my roommate says, "You are about to hit rush hour traffic. You
Mm,
can stay another day if you need to, and leave tomorrow morning."
yeah, yeah. And you said
No.
no. Right, no, I love it. By the way, why Portland, Oregon? Not only it's
Well,
like it's one of my top 3 cities, so what's about Portland that drew you in?
right. Well, first of all, let me tell you is that I got on the road at 2, and then 2 blocks away is the entrance to the freeway, and I hit it.
Yeah, did it.
Rush hour traffic. I hit it. Man, it took 2 hours to get outside of Chicago Metro when it would
Ugh,
be
whew,
like maybe 20 to 30 minutes,
can only
but
imagine, yeah.
I was going.
Yeah.
Yes, I made good on a date. So why Portland? Well, I realized that I didn't need the intensity of Chicago or Manhattan anymore. I've lived in Manhattan.
As well?
Lived,
Wow, yeah. That is
yeah,
intense.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I loved it in my 30s.
Mhm.
Man, and living in a five-story walk up, just boom, 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 just up the stairs and down. And today, no, I don't want to live in no five-story walk up. And it's
Yeah.
got no elevator. No. Um, but yeah, I've loved intensity, but then I
Mhm,
got to a place to where I want a slower life. I want to
mhm,
be able to talk to strangers,
mhm,
go to restaurants, just start talking with people.
mm,
Ask people for directions and not
mhm,
have them worry if I'm trying to suck them into a scam.
mhm, mhm,
So Portland has been perfect. And yeah, I've lived a lot of places. Charleston, South Carolina, Orlando, Florida, Orange County, California, San Diego,
mm.
Cambridge.
Oh, yeah, you were here, right, Cambridge,
Yeah,
Massachusetts, right,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
remember.
Um, but I didn't like the sprawl in Orlando and in Southern California. Um, I felt like Boston had this grudge against New York. And then yeah, and I didn't need New York's intensity anymore.
Right, right.
So conceptually, Portland looked like my next home. And so I committed pretty much sight unseen
Mhm.
and took 16 days to drive here. And that
Mm.
was um, August 31st, 2014. And I'm so happy here.
Oh my goodness, I'm so glad to hear that, and I think
Yeah.
one key takeaway for people who are still thinking about starting something, and I was watching a video by Ali Abdul on YouTube just now. He has, like, this brand new vlog channel, which is great, and, like, there are people going to these video VidCon conferences talking about, "Oh, I've been thinking about starting a YouTube channel for 3 years. I've been thinking about starting a podcast for 5
Hmm.
years." So just do it. Just as I love what you shared, just like whatever it is, put a date on it and just commit to it. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if that episode is crap or audio didn't work out, just publish. I don't know why we kind of got into this ditch. We dug ourselves to say like something has to be perfect or I'm not good enough.
Mhm.
Other
Mhm.
people's voices are what I'm worried about. Let's not start.
Mhm.
No, like
Mhm.
nobody cares, really.
Right, right. And I,
Yeah.
I heard something years ago that crickets never hurt anybody.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you post stuff when you're first getting started, and yeah, a couple of your friends will watch it. Your uncle will watch it, and he say, "I don't know what you're talking about there, but hey, you did it." You know.
Yeah. You did it, we did it, and
Yeah.
I love seeing so many YouTubers who were truly they talk about themselves that they were underdogs in school, in a social situation.
Hmm.
They were shy and they never thought they will make anything into anything, and then they did it. And then you look at not just their subscriber count, not just the stats, but what you're able to do once you put yourself out there is phenomenal. So Oz, I know I can talk to you forever. We are, I don't know how many thousands of miles apart right now, but I really want to take, the last portion of our conversation to talk about your origin stories because, I could have easily started there, but I wanted people to hear the business insights first. But one of the videos that I saw of you, I believe it was Seven Deadly Sins. It was on YouTube
Oh, oh.
where you're wearing something. I think you're wearing something like there are a couple of videos where you're wearing all white, but there's one of the first videos, maybe dated back 2015, 16 or earlier, where you talked about your upbringing. And the video is about 15-minute long. I couldn't believe I ended up watching the whole thing and
Mm,
definitely cried a few times.
oh.
And there was a true connection because sometimes I don't want to kind of steal the story, but one of the things for me to watch it is realize that a lot of us, maybe not all of us, had could be let me just like a more traumatic or childhood of something where it was just hard growing up. And
Mhm.
I definitely fall into what that category, and a lot of people don't realize. They're really shocked to be like, "Really, your parents were perfect?" Well, no, my grandparents were not, and I grew up
Mm,
with them, which most people
mhm,
don't know. But I would just I watched that video throughout. I realized you're such a storyteller, and
mhm.
there's so much truth in that. And there are just moments you describe, like you were 15, living in these like in between and kind of in your father's house,
Yeah.
what you said to your mom, how you came around. I'm just like, oh my God. It just uh, I don't know what it is. Like I don't even know you, but there's so much
Wow.
about that story. Uh
Wow.
yeah.
So, yeah, so that was the story about the 2 months I went to go live with my father.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, yeah, you can ask me any questions about it. Don't worry about any kind of spoiler alerts or anything. That story's been up for a long time, but yeah, and yeah, I've liked storytelling
Mhm.
um more than improv.
Mhm.
'Cause improv tends to you're in a scene with other people, and you got to be ready for it to move any kind of direction.
Mhm.
Um, I like storytelling and spending weeks preparing a story and trying to I remember, okay, why am I going to be on a stage in front of people who paid upwards of $50 a ticket to
Mhm.
see this? Um, and to think about the stakes in a story, the
Mhm.
honesty, how was I changed?
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I like storytelling so much, and yeah, there's turns of phrases and stuff, and weaving a story together. I really like that art form,
Mhm.
versus like stand up where you got to get laughs. People
Mhm.
are there to laugh, right? Um, But yeah, what'd you get out of that story? You have any questions about that story?
Yeah. I mean, there's just that story somehow. I feel like if people don't know anything about you and they this is the first thing they interacted with, and
Mhm.
I think you develop true fans very quickly that way because rarely do we number one, I think we all come with stories, every single one of us, no matter how boring you think your stories your life is or your stories are, there is a way of telling a story, and I think you executed with the timing, choices, your words, and the moments that you've selected for that particular story is
Yeah.
really powerful of almost becomes like I know that we're not here to talk about the anatomy, but I'm kind of interested in how you constructed that story to begin with. But reminds me of, friends become enemies and enemies become friends, and there is like there's collision, there are a lot of conflicts, and there are moments where it make me realize like why did your the moment, like for instance, when your mom, you said, "Oh, took my money and I worked so hard picking up
Yeah.
trash and all
Yeah.
these things. And why would she take the money away from me? And I
Yeah.
deserve this." And then I think makes all of us, doesn't matter we're teenagers or late 30s or 50s or 60s, realize we've all shared those moments of feeling completely misunderstood, especially
Mhm.
hurts by our loved ones. Why they're
Yeah.
adults? Why shouldn't they know better? Then
Yeah.
you think you cross over to the brighter side of and people with really good intentions, you're like your dad,
Mhm.
your siblings, but that just sometimes doesn't work out. And then as we get older, we realize that it's not that simple. And then like,
Right.
right? I don't know, like those are kind of
Yes. And that is a big thing that came to mind recently about storytelling is
mhm,
um everybody gets their humanity.
mhm,
There isn't some cartoon villain in a story. My father could have easily been a villain.
yeah,
But
you're right.
then in telling the story, I can't get up in front of people and say, "And that asshole father of mine."
Right.
Well, now I'm ranting. I'm but in pulling the story together, I
Mhm,
had to look back and realize he was 39 years old.
mhm,
He worked at a boys' prison and he hated that job. He hated the things that he saw every day at his job. And his shifts would change. Now he's got the regular shift that starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. Oh, now he's got the shift that starts at 11 o'clock at night. Now some. I didn't realize that when I was 15.
right. You
He
witnessed
was
it.
just scary.
Yeah.
But to tell the story now, I can say yes, he did some things that scared me, and they still scare me. But they were coming from this guy who was hating life.
Mhm.
Does it make it okay? No, it doesn't. But it's like it just adds another layer where I can have some empathy.
Mm. And there's a lot of what I also learned is that I think what makes a story interesting, in particular yours interesting, is that everybody's actually very multi-dimensional.
Yes,
And right, there's I think we are so used to and conditioned to something, whether it's an item or a person or situation or decision, either all good or all bad. But it's not the case. And it's
it's not.
sometimes it's for the audience to decide that after hearing, let's say, in your new next in your household, leaving your mom and your mom saying never come back. And
Yep,
I've
yep,
heard those words for both my mom, my grandma's like, don't you, I'll disown you. This will never happen. And they accept you back. It's like
yeah,
nothing ever happened. But we took it so freaking seriously at that
yes,
age. It's like,
yeah,
I will honor your decision, the choice. And you and I think also realistically, we don't think about like the challenge of parenthood, of your father working at a boys' prison, the stories, the things that he had seen. Frankly, you will never. There are things that you will never know as
right,
his child coming
right.
back home with so many siblings. Like realistically, if we put ourselves even on our best day in those situations, I don't know how I would react, and
Mhm,
how will I be judged by it? But it's like something so juicy and rich about that is the everyday situation.
yep, and all that complexity.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. There's a lot, man. It's a lot, and thank you for bringing that up. And yeah, and that's storytelling. Yes, that's origin story. And part of that story was because there's a show called Seven Deadly Sins, and occasionally they will have a sin based topic, and that
Mm,
show was wrath. And it got up to that point where my father said, I can, you do you realize, because he had studied kung fu, he says, you
mhm,
realize I can hit you 7 times before you can get up to and move.
mm,
And he went and slammed his bedroom door. um so yes, so that was the wrath. But then it was a story about, me trying to have a father. um but he had all this other stuff going on.
mm,
He had started a new family. I had these half siblings, and they're great, and we love each other, and we were in regular communication with each other. Um, but living there, it was just a whole different
mm,
life that I couldn't deal with. And yeah, it only lasted 2 months.
mm.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Um, but yeah, but yeah, you mentioned this diversity topic.
Yeah, yeah. I, because the reason I want to set some context here,
Yeah.
and I think it is part of storytelling, and
Mhm.
frankly, it didn't hit me until recent years. I'm in my late 30s already, but it didn't occur to me how much influence that being an Asian immigrant and my most mundane lives back in Beijing, where I grew up, the things I did had anything to do with what I do today. You feel like I've transformed. I've, in a way, as I don't want to say like the butterfly situation, but it's like, oh, I'm a different person now. And I've left that life behind. I've blocked certain things off. But then recently people said, well, Faye, why did you start your YouTube channel? Why do people find your content compelling? I said, well, I think I create content with a lot of empathy because I came here not understanding some American people when they talk super fast. And I was really embarrassed. I was so sick in my gut when I wasn't able to say something, pronounce something. I was just like, I need to represent. I need to be better. I need to just constantly, since I got here as a 16-year-old. So because of that, I think it was actually kind of that feeling and empathy permeates my content and made it into something different. But this
Mhm.
is again, this is a very single dimensional way of describing something. So I want to invite you to chat about like what diversity of your upbringing and perhaps how it influences who you are and your past, how your past influences the way you create content today.
Um, See, this is a touchy subject for me.
Hmm.
Um, because I grew up in a very diverse place. It was a suburb of Chicago, blue collar. The school system isn't very good.
Hmm.
But there's a Navy base there, and the Navy kids went to school with us, and so I grew up around people from the Philippines, and there was a Scottish
Oh, I didn't know that.
family that came through,
Hmm.
Native Americans,
Hmm.
um, this German kids, and there was this brother and sister from Iran.
Oh, wow.
So that's what I grew up with, and then Um, I would we had this set of encyclopedias, and I would pull an encyclopedia, and I would look, and the world was just so fascinating, So eventually, I joined the Navy. That took me to Singapore and Pakistan, France.
Mhm,
I went to Bonaire in the
mhm,
Caribbean. So I've seen a lot, and I have felt like a citizen of the world. And it's been hard because I get diversity and I get racism, but
Mhm.
then there are some movements that I can't identify with, like these diversity and inclusion folks running around. And I
Mhm.
would say, wait a minute, yes, I'm black, but I'm only 5'4", and that's made dating weird. I'm left-handed. I'm a veteran. I suffer a lot, even though I wasn't a combat veteran. Having been a veteran, that provides that's the source of a lot of problems for me. And so I just feel like individuals are getting lost in a lot of this stuff. But yes, it bothered me when I finally got to the world of work and I'm hearing all about the diversity, racial diversity. Um, they wanted, we love our veterans. I'm hearing all this stuff, but what happens when I walk past the conference rooms? Who's in there? Attractive white people, in spite of all the talk.
Mhm.
Um, who's got the offices and who versus who's in cubicles? White people. So I get that there is a problem,
Mhm.
but then I am not part of some cartoonish group called black.
Mhm.
Okay, because I am not from rural Mississippi. I'm not from Harlem. I am not from Oxnard, California, So and when I first moved to Portland, I hadn't even been here a full 7 days when I met up with some folks, and there was this couple of ladies who were talking about, you know what, we hate it when people from Philadelphia, Chicago, New York come here and talk about black people in Portland don't have problems. No, our problems might not look like Philadelphia black people's problems, but yes, we got problems.
Mhm.
And so it was like, listen to us, let us tell our stories.
Mhm.
We don't need some spokesperson who's gonna try.
Mhm.
They mean well, but what they do, I feel, is they reduce us down to cartoons.
Mhm. I see. And then I
So
think storytelling, sorry, Oz, I just
yeah,
realized,
go
like,
ahead.
right, storytelling kind of breaks that barrier so
Yes,
much.
yes.
When I watched your story, I wasn't thinking about I'm watching a black person telling his story. I'm watching a person telling his story, and that those struggles, I started to see like, oh, some of my Hispanic friends also mentioned something similar, but it was different for them, and
Yeah.
it was very multidimensional, as whereas some of the current DEI initiatives, even with many with very good intentions, it does seems to reduce down to a very single dimension approach, or frankly without any instructions or manuals, like,
Mhm.
what are we doing with this exactly?
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And that's storytelling. Is a storyteller tells their own story.
Hmm.
And and I have to separate this from, because there's the storytelling that we hear about, like on LinkedIn, storytelling with data, blah blah blah. That's kind of getting into maybe persuasion, or let me paint a picture because these graphs and stuff might be overwhelming. That's a different thing.
Hmm.
What I do is I take the audience on a journey.
Hmm.
Here's how life started. Here's how life ended up. Here's
Hmm.
what was at stake. Did I get what I wanted? Did I not? And I have to tell my story.
Hmm.
I can't tell the story of my father working at a boys' prison and hating life. Um, I can only say from my perspective and what I saw.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm not in somebody else's head. I'm not in black people's heads or left-handed people's heads.
Hmm. I I was just curious, right? Like, I know I've taken up a lot of your time
Oh,
already.
no, no, that's
Um,
fine.
you
That's
know,
fine.
I do wonder, what is it what are some of the things that we could share with people who are maybe in charge of DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion? what are some of the things, maybe outside of their menu, if there is one, to encourage people to know more about each other? What would it be? A workshop to invite people to share more of their stories? What can they organize? What can they actually do with that to encourage even people from within the organization to learn more about each other? I don't know. Like, I'm not against hiring a consultant to come in and
Right.
do certain things. I just don't
Right.
think that needs to be the one and only solution, is someone to drop in and leave, and you're all on your own after, right? So
Uh,
just brainstorming ideas. There's no good or bad things right now.
right.
Yeah.
Um, wow. You see, and this is an area where I don't want to get in trouble, right? But like I talked with one person who described herself as a diversity and inclusion consultant, and it felt like she had this chip on her shoulder.
Mhm.
It felt like she was on this mission to wag her finger at white people. Um, I want to tell my own story, you know. I don't want to have it filtered through with some finger wagger.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm sure that they don't see themselves that way, and I'm sure that they see themselves as really helping. And yes, there is a need for diversity. Um, but I don't know. In a lot of these conversations, I don't feel seen,
Mhm.
other than just like some cartoonish black guy. But I don't feel seen as or I get dismissed as, oh, you're different.
Mhm.
Well, no, there are a lot of black people who are doing well in life, and we aren't diabetic. You know, this is a really, because I lost a friend here recently, because he felt like I wasn't anti-Trump enough. Now I don't want to get political or anything, but the thing is he called me something that was just too far out. A house in. You
Mhm.
know, um, because I was my position at the time was I think Donald Trump is awful, but I am not going to wrap my identity up
Mhm.
in being black and hating Trump.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
have a life to live over here. I got courses to record.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I, I feel like the news media continues to do harm in a way with their clickbait and whatnot.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't like how marketers have entitled themselves to so much data about us, and we can't do anything about it. So there's a lot of stuff on my mind. Um, and then I'm driving around, and then I see BLM spray painted on a wall. You know, life is complicated, and there's a lot of stuff going on.
And Oz, if I may just kind of, I know our experiences are very different. There's a lot of Asian hate crime going on right now, and it's very, very serious. And I think, I'm not trying to say that podcasting and YouTube are the only solutions or ultimate solutions for
Mm,
people of color to, to end racism, really. But I started to see the trends of, and apologize in advance for the background noise. And, you know, there is a microphone now. There's a camera. It doesn't have to be fancy. It can be your phone, where you can share your words just like the way you did. Oz, you had a stage, but frankly, I would have watched that video if you were recording it in your living room. That didn't really matter. You don't
yeah,
really need a
yeah,
stage. You don't need to be invited.
right, right,
um
right.
right, I think you can actually share your voice, and sure, not everybody will love that story, watch it all the way through, or agree with you, but I think it's time for us to actually exercise that. um
Yes,
right?
Yes.
How many people have not shared a story in a small gathering, in a big group? And when I invite people to join me on my podcast, especially the early years, I didn't, invite famous people. And some people said, "I'm really sorry, I'm struggling to piece together this information. Nobody asked me those questions. I never try to answer them." And then after a 1 hour recording, they go, "Wow, I just realized something else about my life I never really thought about before." And over here, this black box started to all light up. It started to make sense.
Mhm.
And I think that is really powerful. And I also say this because I'm part of these, I finally, years later, I joined these like an Asian creator group. At the beginning, I was like, we're just creators. Why do we have to call ourselves Asian? And
Mhm.
I noticed that there are a lot of more hesitations with, for instance, not just Asian creators, but creators of color to say, English is not my first language. I don't know if the algorithm's going to favor us. I don't know if my parents going to like it. My parents not going to like it when I have a YouTube channel. And they did it, and their parents are very proud, or they didn't really care, but they
Mhm.
learned so much from that experience. So I don't mean that
Yeah.
to turn, I think we can empower ourselves to a degree, or at
Yes.
least get out of the way
Yeah.
of, so
Yeah. And you get me thinking now about how, like, I am so appreciative of my audience because they have um they have accepted me. Was when I decided to start expressing myself and telling stories and being genuine in my videos. Um, Now, okay, I'm making a video. Now I want to put some music. Okay, so I go onto this library and start listening to clips. I'm looking for funky disco stuff that I grew up with, stuff that truly expresses me. And so there's like the black me from the housing projects that grew up you listening to James Brown and the Spinners, and Cameo, uh, Brothers Johnson. Okay, and then there is the performer in me with the deadpan humor that's gonna find drama where there's no drama. Okay, so another aspect of personality that I love to express, and so it turns into, like, all right, you know what happens when the VLOOKUP breaks. Boom, boom, boom. You can't panic. You have got to straighten up and deal with this stuff. Boom, boom, boom. Right? So, so
it's fun. You
all,
make it fun. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's all the layers of what makes Oz Oz, and the expression, and truly deeply appreciative of the audience that demands that they've come to love it and they demand it. And when I don't do something, they let me know what happened to the such and such. Oh, okay,
Mhm.
and so we do this dance together. And I do appreciate it when I get messages from other black people who say, I really appreciated learning Excel from a brother. And say, yes, there's that too. There's all of that. Wow. And I'm living a really nice life, and I'm so appreciative.
And I really appreciate you for chatting with me, Oz. We literally just met, and
Yeah.
I welcome you to the stage. And I know there was a little risky for us both to step into the DEI conversation as
Hmm.
a category.
Hmm.
I never ever talk about politics and
Right.
religion really on the show, but I think now into nearly an hour and a half, I realized like in the past year, I decided that, I invited three of my dear friends who identify with a disability. All of them have visible disability. There were, four of us on Zoom watching, and I was a little nervous because I was a little worried of some people would say, well, Faye, you're not someone with a visible disability. How do you even have the right to start a
Mm,
conversation with them? How do
mm,
you ever know? So it was such a fruitful, it was such a helpful conversation to open that up. I really think it's I'm against this so-called able body people and people who are versus people who are disabled. I really hate the concept of putting people in categories. And if we
Mhm.
could encourage each other to share the conversation, be civil, and just hear
Yes.
each other out, and then you make me feel like I'm less afraid of starting the conversation and not know where it's gonna go. Are we making things worse even? So this has been really helpful. I'm so glad we
Good,
ended it,
thank you.
yeah, in a
Yeah, thank
positive
you for
note.
that. Yeah, thank you for saying that about, the nervousness
Mhm.
and what possibly could face, some kind of backlash or something. And going forward and having the conversations. And yes, and it frustrates me to hear, white people don't ask your black friend and blah blah blah. Well, you know what? Um, I'm Oz speaking for Oz. Ask me, have conversations with me, please. That's the only way we can get somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, we're
Conversation.
here. We're here. We definitely were doing this. I would absolutely encourage other creators to start these conversations. We are obviously going live. If you're not comfortable going live with these conversations, just record them and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
release them so more people can hear just different perspectives. So thank you so much, Oz. I can't believe you're in
Thank
Portland,
you.
Oregon. I'm in,
Yeah.
here in Grafton, Massachusetts, and we're sharing these moments together.
Yes.
And I look forward to continuing our conversation. And for anybody who's watching, please check out Oz's creative work on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and let him know. And yeah, is there anything else I left out, Oz, before we conclude?
No, I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot.
Part
It's
two
all
to be
right.
continued.
Yeah, yes. Thank you for this. I really, really, really like this.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to take us offline now. So I'm going to say goodbye to the live audience, take us offline.